Hello, hello, and welcome again to this series of Getting to Know You. Welcome to Pop the Kettle On. I'm Andrew Yeo from Teapot Teas. I'm Andrew Yeo, as well as the Spiritual Co-op. And today we have our tribee, Doris Wittmann from Reality Healing. Hello, Doris. Welcome.
Hello, Andrew. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, it's so lovely to have you on. It's now that we live so far away from each other, we don't have our lives side by side anymore, but thank goodness for technology, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And we are thinking back on, we did a year and a half of how to create your life through uncertainty. And how apt was that, huh? We finished that series in December of 2019, and look at what happened to 2020. Talk about uncertainty.
I know. I think we're going to have to play some of those videos back again and rehash them because they're amazing.
We did some good work there, yeah. But you'd think one of us was psychic, wouldn't you?
Oh, you got to love it. You got to love it. So, Doris, tell us a little bit about you and how you got to this point here.
Yeah, well, as usual, or as you often hear with people who are healers and teachers and guides and mentors and coaches, our journey is often through adversity, and my story is no different. I grew up with a lot of changes and a lot of uncertainty, and in a family where I experienced a fair bit of abuse. And, my father was very controlling, and we lived in a very isolated spot. And, it was just really challenging. It was also, I must say, also a very brilliant childhood, because I got to live in nature, and it was very quiet, and I really could connect to the earth and that sort of thing. But anyway, the basic freedom that I was looking for is to be able to choose my own life and choose my own experiences. And I wasn't allowed to do any of that when I was younger. My father chose everything, from what we wore to what we ate to where we went, the music, the television, everything. Like, he'd come into our room at odd hours and turn the radio on to see if we had been listening to the right station, that sort of thing. So, when you live under that sort of limitation, you can't see anything except get out. And so my whole life.
Were you born in Australia?
No. I was born in Germany. And we left, we had a nice apartment and a lot of family. My mother was one of 13 children, and my dad is one of 5. So we had this amazing family around us in Frankfurt in Germany, and hopped on a ship, came to Australia, lived at the hostel in Villawood for several months until my father got work and bought 10 acres out at Rouse Hill, which is quite a little metropolis now, northwest of Sydney. But at the time, there was no electricity, there was no water, there was nothing. We had a dam because my dad made sure that he bought property with water on it. But I was 14 before I had a real electric hot water shower, and until then we had the tank got warm from the sun, and that was it. So.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't shared this with you ever in all the talks we've had? No,
not about the hot water.
No, not about the hot water. Yeah. Anyway, you learn to have very quick showers on tank water anyway. But no, it was a really wonderful experience, but it was also very, very traumatic in many ways. I mean, I started school at 4 and I couldn't speak English. And, and with my height, I mean, in high school, I was the tallest person in the whole school, let alone teachers or anything. When I started, I mean, I was nearly 6 foot tall at 11 years old. And so, you stand out, you're freaky, you're weird, your dad makes you wear weird clothes and, have bowl cuts. And, I mean, all we want to do as a kid is fit in, right? And have a bit of a choice in our life. And, it's a lifetime of work, really, is finding that for yourself, I think. Discovering who you are and what you need and how to meet those needs and how to find your own uniqueness and live a life of freedom, expressing that, I think, is a lifetime goal for most of us. And it certainly was for me. And that my sense of freedom, like what freedom meant to me, has changed over the years. First, it was just get out of the house, get away from him. And then I started to realise that there were more responsibilities and greater choices to be made in life. And particularly after I got married and had kids, the responsibility of, who am I, and who am I to my children and how they see me. And I really understood from my father and both my parents that, the influence that we have over those people whose lives we're responsible for, those little kids, they look at us and they don't do what we tell them to. They do and take in what they see us do. And I wanted to be a better person, and I made a decision that I was never ever going to pass any of that stuff on.
So were your family quite spiritual when you first arrived here?
Well, my mother was very much into natural things. And I mean, you'd love this. She had a tea for everything, fennel tea for upset stomach, she had chamomile tea for any inflammation, and into a lot of natural things. And my mother had to, of course, carry on with that because we were 3 miles from a doctor and she couldn't speak English and she didn't drive. So, I grew up with a lot of natural remedies. And the one story I do remember, my grandmother, my grandfather on my mother's side was in Germany. He would not fight for Hitler, so they put him in a concentration camp. And when the war was over and he was walking home, the story goes that the family was sitting down to dinner. They'd been evacuated into the country. And they were sitting down for dinner, and my grandfather's photo fell off the wall. And his wife said to the children, "Your father just died." And that was true. That had happened. So I think the women on my side have a really strong connection and intuition. So I mean, in the day, they probably wouldn't have called themselves psychic. That's a term that I think we use these days more frequently. But they both my mother and my grandmother, although I never met her, I believe have a very strong intuition. I know my mother did, very strong, very strong. So yeah, but I think my intuition and my connection to spirit has always been strong, always. I've just had to learn to trust it. And I think that, or I believe that all that time that I spent out in nature, sitting, playing with the lizards and sitting in the grass and just looking at the blue sky and listening to the wind through the trees, I think that I maintained a really strong connection to, wherever I was before I came to Earth. And and that just developed from that. I mean, we all have that voice in our head, that inner guidance. And that that inner guidance has saved my life so many times, whether I turned the radio station to the right one when I was a kid, or, even later in the car driving. And it's just like, oh, I might change into this lane, and then something happens in that one, But there've been a few big turning points for me where I've had major growth. And one of those, as I said, was having children and making the decision not to continue as I was or had been. I knew I had to make big changes and really heal some of my past. And I had some really great therapy sessions in the beginning. But the next, then I was guided to study, and I studied energetic healing. And there I realised that energy is everything. And when you can connect to energy and communicate with energy and play with energy and transform energy, then you really have the key to life. And I realised that it was possible, and then I had to learn how to do it. And then I started to channel, and I did a course. It was a weekend workshop, and at the end of it, someone asked me, "So what did you learn?" And I said, "I learned that I've always channeled, because that voice has always been in my head, talking to me and guiding me. And it spoke to me through my mind and through my intuitions. And anyway, another big turning point for me was, and I think I've told you this story, about when I walked into the crystal shop locally here, and Joy used to have the shop next door for little expos and fairs, and she told me that her Aura photography person had just pulled out, and she'd advertised everywhere for them, and she asked me if I knew anyone that did aura drawings. And I didn't even have time to breathe before the words that came out of my mouth were, yeah, I can do that. And I couldn't draw a straight line, Andrew. It was hilarious. And so I started having this conversation in my head with, like, what are you doing? You know, it's going to be all right. And anyway, I sat down, and so I started drawing. And then I went, if I can draw, I can paint. So I started painting, and the most incredible things came through. The messages that came through, and the people that came through. And anyway, in 2006,
Just before you go there, can you talk a little bit about how the relationships in your family really brought about your spiritual growth as well? Because I know you've had quite an interesting family life, and the relationship with your father and your mother and your siblings as well, because all your siblings are also quite intuitive and spiritual in their own way.
Oh yeah. But well, I mean, my father was amazing, really amazing. He would sit us down. I mean, as a 5-year-old or a 9-year-old, it's the last thing you want to do. But he used to sit us down and talk to us about how the world worked. And he was talking about the Akashic records and stuff like that. I mean, he was well before his time. He was a master. He was an absolute master. And he would come home from work so frustrated because people didn't understand him. I mean, you know what it's like when you wake up spiritually and the whole world feels like they're muggles. And like, God love them. Everyone's at their own stage. But my father used to come home so frustrated, and he had this utopian dream of creating this beautiful world with us in it. And he just got so frustrated that he used to take it out on us in different ways, and it didn't turn out well. But my mother was very intuitive, and both my oldest sister kind of turned away from it because she, well, I don't know why. I just don't know why. But my other brothers and sisters are very, very spiritual too, and I mean, my brother used to astral travel when he was a kid, and stuff like that. So, is that what you're asking?
Yeah. No, and also about you and your dad, because I mean, a lot of the things that you went through with your dad actually brought you to understanding your spirituality and what it meant to you. Like the freedom stuff and all of that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Would you be able to talk a little bit about your relationship with your dad in that way?
You mean how I eventually ended up loving him?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. But I'm going to get emotional. The thing I always say to people is I took the shit and I turned it into fertilizer.
Yeah.
And that journey is that journey is really a story of how to stop feeling sorry for yourself and rewrite that story, because you damn well can, and my continual questioning, and especially when I started to, I mean, in the beginning, I did a lot of healing, like traditional healing, kinesiology and psychotherapy and group work. And one of the things we did was they gave you this bloody cricket bats and mattresses and said, go for it, like get rid of your anger around it. And, that was all great. And obviously it's a process. I did have to, I had to be willing to go there. I had to get rid of the rage and the anger and the disappointment and the grief and the sadness and all of that in me. And I got to a stage where I thought I had it beat. I thought it was fine. And the more I developed my intuition and my awareness of, what was going on around me and the energies, I started feeling around me again, And he was in bed fondling me, and he was in the hallway kicking me up the butt, and he was clipping me behind the ear when I was making coffee, and I just hit an all-time low. I thought to myself, what have I done here? And,
how old were you at this point?
This was in this very house. I mean, I've been here 13 years now, so maybe it was I don't know, 8-10 years ago, something like that. I don't know. Yeah, probably around that, eight or so years ago. And I thought to myself, Doris,
So you're talking about him, this is spiritually happening. This is
spiritually,
like,
yeah.
wow, okay.
Energetically. And he, we have this idea that if someone's physically out of our life, they're gone, but they never are. And I knew that, but I didn't expect him to come back. But it was his parting gift, to be really honest with you. Not that he has completely gone, but anyway, what I did was I asked my guides, like, what do I do? And through a series of explanations, they got me to understand that, I own my life and I own my reality and I get to choose who comes in it or not. And I just went, no, out, gone, out. And that sounds really simple, and it wasn't. I had to really understand it and really believe it and really achieve it, but I did. And then I got to ask again, because it's a question that I'd asked over and over and over and over in my life, is why? Why did this happen to me? And then, when I studied energetic healing and I learned about how all this comes together, I was like, okay, fine. I made this choice on a higher level because I needed to wake up and it got me where I am now, and I have to be grateful for that. And I'd done all of that work. And, this was the final straw. This is in my space. And when I thought I'd worked at owning that, So I'm like, okay, so I know all that. I know all that because it got me to where I'm going and yada, yada. And I've done all the, I thought I'd done all the forgiveness work and whatever. And then I asked again, and I had this experience where I saw myself in spirit as a soul. And I had the plan for my life, the play, the script that I'd written for my life. And I was looking for people to fill the spots, all the roles in that play. And I was walking around looking for someone to play the catalyst in my life as my father. And so many souls were like, oh, the baddie. Oh, that's such a heavy, heavy role. I've just done 3. I've just been typecast as 3 baddies in a row. I'm still recovering, And time after time, people rejected me. And then this one soul read it and said to me, for the love of you, I will play this role for you. I will come to Earth again and I will play the baddie. I'll do all those awful things, whatever it takes, because that's what it said in the script, whatever it takes to wake me up. And I knew that, or my soul knew, that I'd been to Earth time and time again, and that this lifetime was it. This lifetime was the really important one, because this lifetime was where humanity was actually going to make the incredible changes that were going to bring peace to ourselves, to our Earth, and to our universe, really, because our universe doesn't have peace either. We have this sense that, Earth is the only place where there's turmoil, and it's absolutely not true. So, so we came to Earth and he played his role beautifully and I played my role beautifully, because in this lifetime, I chose to actually be present and really, really, really do this. And here I am. And I am so, so grateful for him. And that deeper shift to gratitude has changed everything. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm full of love and appreciation, really.
Yeah. So can I ask you, and this might be a little bit personal, but how long after his passing did you actually realize this message? Because he passed in your life quite young.
Yeah. I was 14 and a half, I think, when he passed, because I moved out of home when I was about 15 and a half. So, I think I was about 14 and a half. when he passed. And when the most of my work went on with him was after I had kids, which was in my sort of mid-30s. And as I said, I think I'm 62 now. Yeah, 62. So, I was in my early 50s when I finally got this last piece, and this is where I think, and I think this is your point, is these things take time, and we have a lifetime to make the changes and to really grow into ourselves and to find ourselves. And, probably like you and most of people who are listening, we have this great big revelation, we have this great big healing, we have this aha moment, and we think, this is it, I'm done, I feel fabulous, let's get on with life. And then the next thing hits you, and then the next thing hits you, and it just, when you learn and coming full circle with something like that is really beautiful, because there's nothing that happens in my life now that I can't see. Actually, seeing is the wrong word. There's nothing that happens in my life now that I don't know without a shadow of a doubt that there's a gift in it for me. And even if I can't see it, there's a gift in it for me. And I need to just appreciate it and understand that I created it on some level for some reason, and I just roll with that, work with it. What does this situation need now? What do I need for this? And I have to question myself, because if I'm not in alignment with what I've consciously chosen, then I know that there's something else that's coming in to show me something. So I need to get curious about it and get a bit adventurous in how I'm looking at things and find the message in it, So, yeah.
Yeah. So what does spirituality mean to you? After all these years of going through this path and finding yourself and understanding your lessons, what does spirituality mean to you?
Good question, Andrew. And I've never really thought about this. Spirituality, I think, is connection and presence and awareness. Yeah. Like understanding that, this physical being isn't all there is, and being able to engage and interact with the world and my reality on all the layers and levels, so that I can drop down deeper into something, or to understand it or to engage with it, or I can come up and have an overview over it to understand it a little bit better, or engage with it at a different level, or come around this side a little bit or that side a little bit. It's the understanding that I'm fluid and life is fluid, and it's a complex question. But I think for me, it's not so much about spirituality; it's about energy, really. So, because I'm an energist, if you want to call it, rather than a spiritualist, and I look at life, and you may call it spiritual, but I look at life through the eyes of energy, and how the energy interacts. And that, for me, takes a lot of the emotion out of it, because a lot of our choices are driven by emotions, and that's not always the healthiest way of looking at something, because when we get emotional, it affects our thinking ability and our ability to understand and take things in. And I think that, if I look at things through an energetic perspective, I understand it better and I can work with it better.
Beautiful. That's a really, really interesting explanation. No one has explained it like that. And so can you also tell me a little bit about how you've brought this energy, this spirituality into your business, and what is the inspiration for reality healing and Doris Wittmann, really?
Well, freedom. And I remember being in a place where I didn't have a choice and I felt absolutely hopeless, helpless and hopeless. Life was hopeless, and it's not a nice place to be. And I see, having worked my way out of that and understanding that it's not easy, but it's simple. I can't stand back now and just go, well, I'm okay. You guys sort it out for yourself. I just can't do that. And it's just in me when I see someone, and it's about awareness, choice, and action. That's how we change the world.
Mm-hmm.
And my level of awareness is something that I've grown deliberately in order to connect to the energies that I'm working with. So I can't connect to that and then not see that someone's walking with a limp and understand that they've twisted their knee and that they're in pain, and that the reason they twisted their knee is yada, yada, yada. And like, for me to understand all that and then just let them limp on. Now, having said that, I have learned to refine my work and work with the people who choose it to work with me, and not just try and help everyone, because we can't do that either.
Mm.
But did that answer your question? Am I waffling?
No. That does answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But how does the energy and all the stuff that you do, how do you incorporate that into the process of creating your business, your art, your work?
Oh, okay. So, how does the energy? Can you repeat that again slowly for me?
How do you use this energy and to create the process of creating your business, art, and your work?
That's a huge question, Andrew. That's several questions in one.
Yes, it is.
But it all comes back to me. It all comes back to me and my awareness and my inner guidance. And so, okay, I'm just feeling this out. Because there's the business. The business is an entity that's been created through my ability to tap into an energy and to share actually, the first thing I want to say is one of the things that one of my purpose in this lifetime is to hold the vision of a positive vision of our future, where our earth is going. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you take that positive vision along with my choice to find my personal freedom, and my business is about helping people find their personal vision, find their personal freedom, and align to their vision, positive vision of what's possible for our future, both for themselves personally and for us as a world and as a universe. So we have beliefs, we have ideals, we have all sorts of things that influence us, the people around us, our community, our technology. It all influences us. And in order to find your freedom, you need to understand that and how that's influencing you, because a lot of the decisions we make and the choices we make and the things that we do, our behaviours and our thoughts, are not made in freedom. And my role is to help people understand that, what those patterns are, how they can, why they would want to change them, the benefits in changing them, and then teach them how to change them. Because a lot of people tell you what's wrong and what you should change, but they don't always give you the tools to change them. And for me to have gotten from where I was as a kid, where every day I woke up and was like, oh, I'm still alive, and I was just disappointed that there was another day ahead of me, to now where I just can't wait to get out and engage in life. And just, people ask me how I am, and I go, I'm fantastic. I'm really, really happy. And now I have bad days and I fall into funks and whatever, but I know how to get myself out of them. And I've how to create your reality is really what it's all about, both now and what you're building to in the future. So all of my work, when I use energy, I channel that energy through the voice channeling that I do for people, which is very healing, and it realigns the energy in people as I'm watching. It's just amazing. I love, love, love doing that with people. And I share what I'm seeing, because I'm a visual, with people when I'm working. I channel energy into art. I channel energy into, I used to do hands-on healing, but just through meditation, through channeling, through art, and through teaching people through the awareness, and also the mudras. Buddha is one of my personal guides, and I've shared some of them with you. Buddha has given me various hand positions that create an energy flow in your body that boosts and activates an intention that you have in your life. So so I've channel energy into various things and people and teachings to assist people in making those changes, understanding, choosing, and taking action on those changes, so that they can create their own reality and live in a world that they choose to live in. That was a long answer, wasn't it?
No, but it does answer it, which actually comes to my next question. I love talking to intuitives like that, because the conversation flows, because you kind of bring it to the next to that next level. So how has your work evolved as you understand energy more and more?
Very interestingly, Andrew. Very, very interestingly. Very interestingly. The people that have crossed my path, the guidance that I've had from my guides, particularly Saint Germain and Buddha, they were two of my personal guides, but also the 12 that came to me in 2006 and asked me to draw their energy. No wings, no halos, no faces, just energy. They've worked with me because each one of those has something specific they're helping humanity with, or they've asked me to share. Sorry, I've lost track of the question.
So how has your work evolved when you understood more about energy?
Yeah. So I grasped the concept that I create all of my reality, but then I had to prove it to myself, understand how, and actually do it. And that happened in many different ways. As I said earlier, I studied energetic healing. So I started to work with people hands-on, and, the pendulum. I worked with the pendulum, I worked with crystals, I worked with people. And I was surrounded by beautiful healers and spiritual people and guides, like human guides. Met some wonderful people. I've done some great, but really the inspiration of being around other light workers and healers, and that's been really just, it's a really big answer, big question, because it's been a 30-year journey. But things happen to me, like a friend of mine makes jewelry and doesn't drive, and I was curious, so I said to her, "Oh, can I come with you next time you go shopping?" And I drove her, and the crystals started talking to me. They started telling me how they wanted me to share them, and what they were helping people with, and so I started making jewellery, and yeah, so it's been a really zigzag, interesting journey into little lay-bys and crevices where I've got to explore myself and life, and it's just been a really interesting journey. So yeah, I don't know if that's enough of an answer for you.
Mm,
Did you want something specific?
no, no, no. I just wanted to see where you'd see your business evolving as you have evolved and understood the energy more. But what is it that you know, well, before that, how do you bring that energy and spirituality into everyday life and work?
By living as me, by finding me, by connecting to me, by loving me, and aligning to me, really. And yeah, I think that's if you'd asked me that 2 years ago or asked me that in 2 years' time, that may change because we go through stages in our life. And right now, at this point in my life, my question has been and continues to be, and my work is really focusing on, how can I or we, as unique individuals with totally different ideas, outlook, thoughts, behaviours, beliefs, how can we come together and live as one on a planet in peace and harmony and still maintain our individuality and our uniqueness and our self-love? We have to stop making each other wrong. We have to understand that there's 1,000 different viewpoints, and that so that's how I'm really bringing that in at the moment in my business and that's what the mudras are for. About connecting to ourselves, getting out of your head and connecting to your heart. It's about connecting the masculine and the feminine together. It's about bringing all of yourself into unity from the highest point of your soul, your divinity, to your inner child, into oneness, and they've shown me, the Buddha's given me mudras to bring the blueprint, because we're getting complex here, but I'll try and be short. The blueprint, like, I'm a different person to who I was when I chose to come into life. Sorry, my battery's running a bit low. I'm a different person to who when I came into life. And in the old days, we had to die and be reborn and make another choice and yada yada. And I believe that we're actually reincarnating into our own bodies, but at a high frequency in a different consciousness. And one of the things that we have is, we knew this was going to happen, so we brought in a second blueprint, and that blueprint is stored within us. And one of the things Buddha showed me is how to activate that new blueprint, and how to co-create in that place where two things, two beings, two evolving persons or things can live together in harmony while still creating a life in the same, uniqueness in the same space. One of those things is actually this COVID virus, because it's just something that wants to evolve. It doesn't want to kill us. And the mudra for that is about the virus having its having its needs met and evolving in a way that is harmonious and benevolent, and us evolving beside it in a way that is evolving and benevolent, and without trying to fight it or kill it or avoid it or heal it or excise it or whatever. So there's a lot of different ways that we're being asked to come into unity within ourselves while accepting your big thing and allowing others to be themselves and have their thing. So that's where I'm at, and that's where my work is really going at the moment, and it involves a lot of self-love and acceptance. It really does. Yeah.
So what would you, if you had one line to choose, what would be your vision and mission and your message to the world?
Get to know yourself, learn to love yourself, And for goodness sake, start trusting yourself, because you are wiser and more magnificent than you can ever believe. Notice when you're dropping into fear, take a few deep breaths and bring yourself back to love. Even if you need to just put your hands on your heart for a few moments, plant your feet on the earth and take a few deep, deep breaths. And everything else will fall into place.
Beautiful, beautiful. And lastly, what about your life and vocation do you love the most?
I absolutely love when I have been working with somebody, and many healers will probably tell you the same thing. People come in and they're dull. You know, not as in boring or looking old or looking sick or anything, but there's just a luster that's not in them. And when, you know, there's a confusion, there's a heaviness that, you know, and when they come out of a session, or, you know, they feel light, and the light streaming out of their eyes, and there's just a weight being lifted off them, and you can see they're breathing better, and they're just really present and available to themselves. And that is what I absolutely love. Absolutely love, because I can see the difference that person has chosen to make in their own life, because nothing happens unless they choose it. You know, people call me a healer. I'm a facilitator. They're healing themselves because their choice. They're in that moment in time, they've said, I choose differently. And I've been able to facilitate that. And through that choice, they've lifted all of this weight and everything off them, whether they choose an artwork or a channel or however they choose to do it, just to stop and breathe. And I love being able to be a person who can make that available to others. I just love it.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Doris. Thank you for sharing your story. And, you know, because this is what people want to know. People want to get to know you. People want to know how you came to where you are, because people like us help to inspire other people who are starting in their journey. So thank you for that, Doris.
Just in a different place, no better, you know. And the other thing, thank you, Andrew, for saying that firstly. Thank you for recognising that in me. And I also want to say that, you know, people who are making these changes in their life now may look at us in the same way that I looked at the people who came before me, like Louise Hay and Brandon Bays, and, you know, so many of the others, the grandparents of this, really, or the parents of this. And what I saw in them was that they had to lose everything, and they struggled. They worked so hard to make this spiritual journey happen for themselves and to awaken. And, you know, my journey has been not as difficult. I chose to do it without struggle. And because our vibration on our planet and more and more people are becoming conscious, which makes it the energy more accessible, and it makes the support more readily available. And if you're going through this now, if you're waking up now, my God, you're in the best place in the world, because the people that have gone before you have done that struggle, and they've done the hard work, and they've put the foundation down, and we've really created a path for you, and you don't need to struggle anymore, unless you choose to, of course. And no blame. I mean, I think things happen to people, but ask yourself, how can I do this lovingly? How can I do this gently? How can I do this in the kindest way possible for myself? And I think there's you know, that's what I would invite you to do, because there's so much available to you. The universe will bring you everything that you need. You just need to breathe and accept it.
That's exactly right. Anyway, I think we've gone a little bit over time today, but if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to pop the question down below. in the chat, and both either Doris or I will endeavor to answer as much as we can. If you're interested in Doris's work, you can find her on her Facebook page, Reality Healing, as well as doriswittmann.com. Was it realityhealing.com?
My email, if someone wanted to contact me, is doris@doriswittmann.com. That's WITTMANN. There's no H in it. Or my Reality Healing Facebook page, or on Messenger as Doris Wittmann. Yes.
Okay, and your website will be ready in a couple of months' time.
I'm working on it. I'm turning it from a blog site with all interesting stories on it to actually places where people can receive some of my work in different ways. But it's doriswittmann.com.au.
Wonderful. Thank you, Doris, for sharing your story.
Thank you, Andrew.
And I'm sure we'll be interested. And if you're interested in finding more about Doris's work, make sure you go to her Facebook page and also check out the Spiritual Co-op, because Doris is an active member and a tribe member of the Spiritual Co-op, and she will have a lot of her services and channeled artwork available at the marketplace. So thank you very much for being here, Doris. From our heart to yours, take care of yourselves and your people around you, and we will be back with more of getting to know you and our tribees. So we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.